Recently, I got a ribbon for the Hirudo, and I was quite excited to be working with the sparring weapons again. At some point, the Kogaki was my most used melee weapon, and I had a lot of fun with that. Pretty much the bread and butter of the sparring weapons at that time was being able to trigger those finishers during your combos. But there's also already something that we have to notice about sparring weapons and Hirudo puncture based, Kogaki impact based, Karudo impact based, Prisma Obex impact based, and don't even need to talk about the non-primed version of the Kogaki and the non-Prisma version of the Obex. Pretty much the same with lower stats. And so it's gonna be kinda, we're not gonna have that meta of viral and bleeds, and that's already kind of a setback. And yeah, I went and rolled this ribbon about 28 times, and I ended up with this. I'm gonna explain why later. First, this thing was so old. I even have the name here of a build for channeling, which was a thing back in the day. Then I thought, like, what are we gonna build with the Hirudo? I really like the weapon, has unique mechanic of healing, and yeah, I was very excited. So the stats are not bad. Critical is great. Critical multiplier is good. Status is abysmal. That's not really good. But yeah. Then I thought like fast strikes and stuff, hitting fast, maybe condition shattering impact would be a good thing. Uh, Things take a lot of hits to get that armor down actually, and that's not really fun. So this was kind of the first build I went for, just using the regular strikes, let's say, regular, just pressing E and walking. And yeah, this was quite okay with condition overload. You can really just melt stuff. Yeah, but then I went like, well, what can I do with what can good weapons do? And the first thing that came to my mind was to kill Demolists, high level Demolist, high level Disruption, and then that's where I kind of felt that this was really bad because I was not dealing, uh, I would say, a satisfying amount of damage. And then I tried to go with the heavy attacks. That's where I actually found it interesting, but to use the heavy attack on and kill Demolists, I'd have to strip armor because, yeah, those things don't care uh, about you at all if they have armor. And that's when I decided to go with putting Shuriken with Seeking Shuriken on frames and trying that out. It worked out pretty well actually. But yeah, this video is not really about builds, but the state to talk a little bit about the state of sparring, maybe even kind of a rant video. I think sparring used to be really fun because you could trigger those combos. That was fun. That was fun back in the day. Even though the finishers are don't really have um, a, a place, I would say, in Warframe. There's no really a point of using finishers. Like if not the Parazon finisher, there's not really a big point out of that other than triggering arcanes and stuff. Because the toughest enemies in the game, like the Demolists, can't even be finished. So I don't see a real point on using finishers. Um, there's even a mod for the Obex, which has an interaction with finishers, but those are ground finishers, and um, ground finishers are not really considered finishers depending on what you're using to increase finisher damage. That being something like Banshee's Silence, that's not gonna increase the damage from ground finishers. And so this mod is not the easiest to use on higher levels. You are able to kill Demolus, I just don't know how far will this scale. Probably it's not gonna scale very well, but for the first waves and stuff, you're not gonna have that much trouble. And I even got some really good rolls for the Gerudo, like critical chance for damage and stuff. But I was not very happy with that. But attack speed and chance to generate combo is okay to me. Initial combo is not gonna change anything for me actually, because I'm getting the combo counter all the way up to get the most amount of damage from our attacks. What do I think it's holding back sparring weapons? It's actually the stances. There is only a few attacks, and it's pretty bad. Grim Fury used to be the bread and butter because back in the day, Brutal Tide was not as accessible. It was not as easy to find those specific enemies that drop the mod. And yeah, I was leveling at that time. That's probably why it took me so long to get Brutal Tide. But melee was different at the time, and you were kind of stuck on your attacking animation, and so Brutal Tide was slow and clunky, and the way to go was Grim Fury. And you just had some combos that would trigger the finishers that would be cool. The question is, can you still trigger finishers with Sparring? Yes. Is it easy or as accessible as before? No, it's a pain in the ass. And the thing I'm saying about these stances is that they're meh. It's not very fun to use these stances because a lot of combos just ended up being cut out just because the mechanics to use attacks were getting different. At some point we had combos where you would have to press E a few times, then hold E, or even press E a few times and maybe even hold backwards. And that wasn't very nice for Grim Fury. Or maybe for a lot of weapons. One, because at some point you would trigger the heavy attack by pressing and holding E. And another thing is that at some point the holding backwards and pressing E would just make you so you go really backwards, you know. Like the enemy was here, you were trying to attack, but then you kept going backwards, you know. And when you needed to land that attack that would trigger the finisher, you would just not hit it because you would be like a meter away from the target, or even a few centimeters, but that would already not trigger the combo, the finisher. And yeah, I think that what's holding back these kind of weapons are the stances, and because they have literally knockdowns and impact procs, and then you're going to be able to use the ground finishers and stuff. They're pretty bad. I think they should really do some work with these stances. And another thing they should really change is the finishing animations, because sparring weapons and fist weapons share the same animations for ground finishers and normal finishers. And how to even trigger finishers right now, it's, yeah, you have to hit them with the second attack of your heavy attack, and you can either do that by using both attacks or sliding and pressing your heavy attack. Of course, if you do this, you're gonna send enemies flying to the roof, because this is what this attack does. So the way to trigger them is, and now the hard work is to land like the last punch to trigger it. And another problem is that the enemy kind of has to be available to be open up for a finisher. If he's doing like any animation, he's not gonna be open for a finisher. So yeah, that's kind of my problem with sparring weapons right now. What I would change, or what I would like to have for these weapons, is better combos, like more stances, better combos, better procs on the stances. Maybe, not maybe, one thing that would be really sick would be to have different animations for the finishers. Like if you're doing a ground finisher, maybe make so you're using sparring, you're using your feet and your hands, so you can pretty much kick the dude in the ground. That would be crazy. Or if you can step in the head or something like that. I think that would be pretty neat and would be very, very nice. I think these weapons are sadly on a mediocre state right now. You can use combine some really weird stuff to make it work. But I think that on themselves, like without condition overload and stuff, they're gonna be pretty mediocre. But can you make them work? Yeah, you can. It's just they're in a bad state. Please change this. So yeah, let me know what kind of weapons or what kind of melee weapons are you using, and why are you using them, and if you even use or used sparring weapons, and what changes would you like to see on these ones. So thank you very much for watching, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!